From the banks of Dewey Lake, it's the Dewey Pod Monster.
All right, welcome back. My name is John, and this is the Dewey Pod Monster Podcast. This is a weekly podcast, and it is about consumption. We are, of course, proud members of the You Run Podcast Network. You can find all of our old episodes, all of our upcoming episodes, and all the other great members on the You Run Podcast Network at yourunpodcast.com. With me this week is the host of the Dewey Pod Monster Podcast. His name is Sean. And Sean, how are you doing today?
John, poor people get bored too.
It's true. They certainly do. Well, before we get into bums, hobos, and the likes, what have you been watching this week, Sean?
That's a great question, John. I thought you would never ask. You've never asked before, so I thought you would never ask again.
I like to keep you guessing, keep you on your toes.
Very true. So, because you've never asked before, I won't do what I did last week and give you the documentary sandwich. Oh, wait, I will give you the documentary sandwich. So, I'm going to start with the documentary. I'm going to talk about a film.
Can I have make a request?
Sure.
Can I get more of a documentary panini?
Yeah, I'll smush them down. I'll try and smush them down, put some grill marks on it. We'll see what happens.
All right.
Might turn out to be a big mess.
Lots of butter.
Yeah, it might have a lot of cheese leaking out of it, but we'll see what we get. So first,
sometimes
I want to
slopping it up is good. So
I want to say thanks to Greg from You Can Eat That Crust. He suggested that I watch a documentary called Crash Reel, and it follows snowboarder Kevin Pierce. And Kevin Pierce, the movie starts, he's a snowboarder. He was a big rival to Shaun White. It starts following him about a month before the Vancouver 2010 Olympics, which he was on pace to basically either take the gold or be highly competitive for the gold. They show all this training that he was doing, and he was really getting into shape. He started taking his snowboarding really seriously. And what happens very early in the movie is, in the documentary, is he's practicing this trick. He's practicing the double cork, which he's going to do on the half pipe in snowboarding. And he either over rotates or something happens, and he ends up crashing. He slams his head onto the bottom of the pipe, and this leaves him like he's knocked out. They airlift him. It's not looking good. I don't know if he was quite in a coma, but he ends up having a traumatic brain injury. And a lot of the movie starts to switch its focus from, they were following him for this documentary as his leading to the Olympics, but it starts to take form more of his recovery from this brain injury and his will to try to get back into competitive snowboarding, and his family. Like I think he has 3 brothers and his parents, and they're kind of talking it through. And one of his brothers has Down syndrome, and he's always been very competitive in Special Olympics. So he understands like the athletic competitiveness of that. Yeah. Like trying to satisfy being an athlete, but also like he knows that basically like if Kevin were to do something and he hit his head again, he could be really screwed up. And they actually follow a lot of his recovery, and they show towards the end of the movie, he starts to kind of become, I think now he's like a motivational speaker, but they start to have him meet with other people who have had multiple traumatic brain injuries. And some of the people are his friends. Some were like really highly competitive snowboarders. During the course of the filming of the movie, like multiple freestyle skiers, people in that same kind of realm of sport end up actually dying from different tricks that they're trying to do that go wrong. They show a lot of clips of like X Games, like skaters and stuff. So it talks a lot about like not really CTE so much, but more traumatic brain injuries. Come to find out, I watched about 20 minutes of this. I'm like, this looks really familiar. I had actually seen this movie before. It had been several years. But again, big shout out to Greg, who was on the show a couple weeks ago. It's a really good documentary. If you can find it, again, show notes, we'll link it. We'll try to link it in the show notes. It was a really good documentary. My family sat down and started watching it with me. Of course, they had a gazillion questions because they joined 20 minutes or 30 minutes into it. And they're like, what's this all about? So it's like, you come down here and you interrupt my movie watching. Get the hell out of here. Anyways, yeah, it was a good one. I would recommend it. We'll get to the film that I watched. The film I watched was I finally got around, and it was something I had wanted to watch for a while. I watched 28 Years Later, and that kind of follows, if you're not familiar with the 28 franchise, 28 days, 28 weeks, now 28 years later. And I guess there's 28 years later, Bone Temple, I think is what the next one is coming out. I think that's coming out next year. So this is 28 days later.
28 more years later.
That would be 56 years. And I think they want to try and tie directly in.
But if we don't call it that, if we just call it 28 more years, you're still keeping the 28.
Yeah, and we'd all be so confused, because it's not going to be called 56 years later. 28 years later, again, part 2, Zombie Boogaloo, Rage Virus Boogaloo. There we go. So 28 days later follows this virus that infects people that makes them, I don't know, freak the fuck out. They're basically zombies. If they hear sound, that sound attracts them, they go tear people up. 28 weeks later is what happens 28 weeks after the start of this rage virus. 28 years later is what happens 28 years after the finding or the start of this rage virus. This movie more centers around Aaron Taylor Johnson, I think is his name, the guy from Kick-Ass and Kick-Ass 2, the Godzilla, the Bryan Cranston Godzilla movie. He is a father of a son who is coming of age. His wife has some kind of illness. You're not really sure what it's about. They live on this really remote island that can only be accessed via mainland when it's low tide and there's a causeway that shows itself like a land bridge. And he takes his son out. His son's a little bit too young. They live in this community, so they're not thriving, but they've learned to like live on their own. They hunt their food, they grow vegetables. They have a small community that's like really tight knit, and it's this kind of rite of passage for kids to go off the island at 13, I think, and his son is 12. So they're kind of sending him out a little bit early. The mom's sick. They go out for a day. The son kills his first, whatever zombie type thing. I know that they're not technically zombies, but we're just going to, we're not going to argue. I mean, we both know that
semantics.
They're basically zombies.
Yeah.
And he goes out one night. It's really crazy. And they come back. They have this big party for the son. And he decides, after seeing some things during this party that his father is doing, that he is going to try and help his mother out, because they don't really have doctors. Like, doctors aren't really a thing. They don't have a specific doctor. But when they were out at night, they saw a fire, and his dad's like, oh, maybe that's this old doctor that I used to know, and he's crazy and blah, 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 blah. So because his mother is so sick, he decides he's going to take her at night. Well, not at night. He creates a diversion to take his mother off the island on the causeway. And that's really what the movie's about. It's him trying to find this doctor with his mother. And I didn't read anything. I didn't watch any trailers as usual. I just wanted to go into the movie not really knowing much about it, just knowing it was a Danny Boyle film following the whole events of the 28 series. I don't know. I kind of feel mixed about it. I thought it was a pretty good movie. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be about, which is fine. It doesn't have to be what I had any preconceived notions of what it could be. I thought it was, I'm on the fence. It wasn't bad, but I like 28 Days Later a lot. And I know we kind of differ on that opinion. I like 28 Weeks Later a lot too. This one I liked. I just don't know if I thought it was as good as all the critics afterwards, because even if you don't read anything or watch anything, it's hard to avoid. Sometimes you hear all the hubbub about the movie.
All I really heard is that there's a lot of flopping zombie dick in it.
Yeah, this isn't really a spoiler, so I'll just kind of mention it. They start to explore this idea of having like an alpha zombie or whatever. And that is like, they're always bigger, like they're taller, they're stronger, they're thicker, like whatever the virus is works as like some kind of steroid for these specific types of leader alpha zombies or whatever they are. So yeah, they're like naked all the time. So you see a lot of crusty boobs and a lot of flopping dick, and the alpha has a pretty big wang. So you get to see that quite a few times. I mean, they don't focus on it. They're not like, oh my God, they're juggling around and falls in the guy's mouth. He's like, oh no, it's nothing like that happens. It's not, like it's not that big. But yeah.
You would have sold me on the movie if that happens. So
that was 28 years later. Again, links in the show notes. The last thing I want to...
Is that a boom like? No, that's a zombie dick.
So the last thing, I talked about this, it's been several months. There was a documentary that came out. It was called Secret Mall Apartment. And I talked about it. We had both watched a VCR Party Live episode where they had an interview with, I think it was the director of the movie. So I finally got a chance to watch it. And it's a bit of an evolving. It's kind of like a bait and switch a little bit. I feel like it's initially about these 4 friends that built a living space inside the Providence Place Mall in Rhode Island. And they kind of tell the history of the mall, like how it got built. A lot of people got displaced, like lower income people got displaced. And where the mall is built, it's essentially like on one side of a river, railroad tracks or something. On the other side of the tracks are kind of like the lower income people. And they started trying to gentrify and move all these people out. And these people at first decided to make this living space as like a kind of a protest. They were these art students from the Rhode Island Institute of, was it RISD, the art college that's like in Providence? That's where like the Talking Heads and like certain, like it's a thing. So
okay,
they build this apartment, this living space. Eventually it expands to 8 people, and it follows the development of the apartment, all while being led by the main guy, Michael, who was actually a teacher at the college. He was like a professor, and he was an artist. He was really concentrated. They start to move the story along from not just the apartment, but Michael's kind of activity of what he would do with his students, these other people. And he would make these tape murals, right? So there are these impermanent art fixtures made of masking tape, and he would do them at hospitals. He would do them, it was he would bring underprivileged kids would come in and they would do these things. It was just kind of like a way to show how you could do art with anything, really. And
were they actually impressive looking?
Yeah, no, they were amazing. Like they're,
because you legit. Say,
yeah, you're like, oh, that sounds like shit.
You say tape mural. I'm like, it sounds like what happens when I try to like pull tape and it gets all like balled up and you just end up making a big wad of tape.
That's all they that's all it was. Were all these big wads of tape balls. No, they were like actual pieces of art. I mean, they were like,
okay.
So he started doing this at Oklahoma City. When the Oklahoma City bombing happened, I think for the 10th anniversary, he actually got hired to make this big installation, this big art installation. And then after 9/11, he would go around. I think this happened when they did the apartment. It was in like the 2000s era. So it was right like a couple of years after 9/11. And they had a project where they would go around New York, around Manhattan, and they would put up these like silhouetted figures out of masking tape of like a police officer or a firefighter. And there was supposed to be one mural or one like silhouette for every first responder that died during 9/11. So they start really kind of focusing on this. And
I gotta say, this is not where I expected this mall documentary thing to go at all.
No, so. It's like I said, it's kind of a bait and switch because it starts out being about this apartment and being about the history of basically Providence, Rhode Island, and how this mall was built. And it turns into this whole thing about these group of people and them trying to help, remember fallen first responders. And then it goes back to kind of like the whole time while they're doing all this, they're still living in this secret apartment. And it does cover how they ended up like furnishing the place, how they built it up, how they actually ended up building their own wall because they had to kind of just sneak in through these crevices and stuff.
Just like Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, exactly. But they ended up building like a cinder block wall. So they had to show how they brought all the cinder blocks in, how they built the space. And eventually they ended up getting caught by security guards. And the security guards, I think, knew they were living there, and they ended up breaking in the apartment. And like they had a PlayStation in the apartment. And the security guards, I think what they would do is like on shift, they would just break into this apartment and play PlayStation instead of doing work. And that's how they ended up getting caught. It's a really interesting documentary. I don't think that's streaming anywhere for free, but again, show notes. We'll leave them in the show notes. So really, that's what I've been watching since we talked last. What have you been watching there, John? Johnny boy?
I don't know if I've outwardly said it, but this has been a summer of like shitty action movies for me. So I've had a lot of those like popping up, and I'm doing kind of what I've always done with horror movies and just kind of judging by title and cover art. And I'm learning that a lot of times when I pick a shitty action movie, somehow like gang rape is a big part of it, and I don't understand why.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah, I don't know how that's happening. Maybe it's this first one I picked is from 1985. It's called Naked Vengeance, so maybe that should have been a clue. The caption that's on IMDb just says, a beautiful woman seeks revenge for a tragedy forced upon her family. The tragedy is like an extensive rape scene. Like that's the only thing that I like wrote as far as like, this is a very excessive, like long drawn out rape scene. And basically from there, it's just like a revenge flick, like just her going around killing whatever. It's got a lot of really entertaining as hell, like over the top revenge kills. But the whole time I was watching, I'm like, man, this would have been a lot better if I didn't have to sit through this really excessive rape scene, like to get to it. But it's just kind of like tacky, cheesy, typical chicks with guns shooting everything that moves. What's not to like?
I mean, if I could interject, I feel like maybe it's the movies that you're focusing on watching. Like I'm looking at the poster for this and I'm like, oh yeah, chick with a shotgun. Mm-hmm. Something bad probably happened to her.
Oh yeah. Well, I figured, but like, I was hoping that it's so the next movie I was going to bring up that's kind of similar to that is called Kill Squad. This one's from 1981. And this one actually tells you, like in the plot, that a platoon leader is paralyzed and his wife is raped.
Oh, cool.
It just says rape. It doesn't say gang rape.
Gang rape.
And then basically he gets his squad and he goes and fights like a bunch of other fucking people. And it turns into like this all out like gang war essentially between the Kill Squad guys and like the criminal guys. I don't remember the rape scene even being on camera in this movie. Like I could be wrong. Like
it's probably better
to be up. It is. It's actually a better movie all around. I've posted this on Blue Sky. And I've posted this on our Instagram too. It has one of my favorite like ridiculous scenes where they're going in, they're fighting in this kitchen. This one of our heroes or one of our quote unquote good guys is like kicking the shit out of this other dude, and the guy like tumbles over a table or something like that, and he goes to pull a gun on him. He's about to shoot the guy. It's the only time I've ever seen this. The guy with the gun, his foot is in frame the whole time. And what does he do? He immediately blows off the bottom, like the toes and everything in his foot. And of course, it's quite fucking comical. And most of this movie is just like, from what I remember of it, I mean, it's only an hour and a half long, a little less than that. Like I said, I don't even remember watching a rape scene in this, but I do remember just like after the first like 10 minutes or so, it's just endless like gunshots and karate fights. That's all this movie is. I mean, I even jotted down, I was like, there's really no plot in this movie, but I'm not 100% sure that it actually needs one. Like, it's one of those who gives a shit. And it's got some, again, in true shit 80s like action movie fashion, some of the most absolutely insane but entertaining stunt work that you're going to see in a shit movie. Like movies like, much like, oh fuck, what was that? Nightmare at Noon? Was that what it was called?
Yeah, I was going to say Dead by Dawn, but Nightmare at Noon sounds better.
Yeah, Nightmare at Noon. It's got a bunch of stunts in it that you're just like, well, this guy clearly had no concern about his well-being and went and did this like shit anyway for this movie that made $20. Like it's just over the top in nonstop violence on really both of them. Kill Squad's probably the better movie because I don't remember so much, rape being in it. But Naked Vengeance, it's not without its bit of like schlocky B movie charm to it as well.
Looking at the poster for Kill Squad, I'm sold just on the tagline: 12 hands, 12 feet, 24 reasons to die. That I'm sold.
Yeah.
No gang rape.
Well,
24 reasons to die. Where do I sign?
Yeah. I could tell you where to get it, but I think you already know. So
yeah,
but yeah,
streaming on Plex for free.
Yep,
it'll be in the show notes.
It will be in the show notes. That's how hardest working show notes in the business.
That's right.
So instead, this isn't really a sandwich. This is, for me, this is more of like 2 piles of shit with some like syrup on top of it or something.
Oh, Texas hash.
Yeah, we'll call it that. So similar. So the other thing that is near and dear to my heart is this Jason Voorhees character, and we got our first thing in the new Jason universe thing, which, okay, so if someone can, feel free to tell me I'm an idiot if this is wrong, but to my understanding, this Jason universe thing is basically their way of throwing their IP on as many things as fucking possible. From what I'm told, there's going to be the TV show, a game, potentially a movie now, and all kinds of other shit. Well, apparently the first thing they're going to do is they have some kind of branded product with Angry Orchard, the hard cider company owned by, I think they're owned by Sam Adams, if I remember right.
This sounds weird.
They essentially made a 15-minute short film, which is very much so a Angry Orchard like commercial in a lot of it's like not obviously like they're not telling you like, hey, buy this, crisp Angry Orchard, but there's a lot of people eating apples. Anyone who's drinking anything, it's an Angry Orchard can, and like it's very obvious that they're paying for product placement to make this little short film. I also like feel that they spent an excessive amount of time for a 15-minute short film really focusing in on this pair of like light blue and yellow Nike Cortezes that the main character that's not Jason is wearing, because it seems like every other shot that she's in, these things are like, one, they're a bright color in like a very Crystal Lake looking environment, so they stick out like a sore thumb, but they're just front and center constantly. I'm like, why did Nike do this? Like I whatever.
So this is War of the Worlds,
but for what it is,
but Jason, and not Amazon, but Angry Orchard.
It's better than War. I liked it more than War of the Worlds, but that may be a cop out, considering that Jason's in it. So, I mean, what it really is though, it's like a 15-minute like there's like I want to say 5 or 6 people that get waxed off in this.
Whacked
by
off?
The end of it, that too. It's got one scene in it that's pretty entertaining because it's one of those in a franchise with I think like 156 people that die. I'm like, oh, I haven't seen Jason do that before, so I won't ruin that. But it does have one of those in it, which is kind of interesting. There's not really a whole lot of plot to it. Like if I had to say if someone had to ask me what the plot was, I would say to sell Angry Orchard cider, which is probably not ideal for something that should be a horror movie, but that's kind of what it is. I'm glad to see that Jason Voorhees, even in 15-minute short films, still fucking hates Windows. So that holds up.
He's a Mac user.
That part of the lore. Yeah, well, again, in true Friday the 13th fashion, you see a giant picture window and you see a window over there, and sure enough, some fucker goes through it. So it's like, all right, well, that's good. And yeah, the mask looks a little undercooked. Like that's what half of the internet is bitching about, is that the mask doesn't look like the mask that they saw before. And I want, Jason's is well established, one of my favorite characters, easily my favorite of the big slashers. But like, if I'm not going to waste too much time bitching about a mask, it's got the fucking red, whatever's on them. It's white. It's a hockey mask. It looks like a Jason mask, just a little bit different. And I don't feel like that's worth bitching about.
People are so pissed off that they thought he was a command line user and he's using a fucking GUI. What a dick.
I mean, that's probably fair, but I mean, that's absolutely free to watch. So that's on YouTube. Again, show notes, so you can get to it if you have 15 minutes to spare. Like I said, I've heard a lot of people say that they hate it. I've heard a lot of people say like there's not much of a story, and I'm always like, it's a 15-minute advertisement. Like, how much of a story were you expecting? Like, in fairness, but it's, if you like Jason or Friday the 13th, it's worth spending the 15 minutes to watch, because quite frankly, you're not investing all that much time in it. So what's the harm? I don't know that I want an entire like feature-length film in just this look, but I will say, if this is what we get, I mean, if it ever happens, I'm still of the belief that this show is never going to actually make it to air, and that there's not going to be another movie, because Sean Cunningham is like that. But if this is what it takes to get to that point, then well, you know what? I got a 15-minute little side quest where I get to watch a handful of people get off by Jason. I guess I can't bitch too much about that.
They get whacked off by Jason. What could go wrong?
They get whacked off in the tool shed. Anderson's over there asking why they're whacking off in the tool shed.
Thanks for explaining that to me.
I wasn't explaining it to you. I was explaining it to the, all the 30-year-olds out there who didn't live through Beavis and Butthead. That's all I got this week, though. So unless you got something you want to add, let's take a break and come back and talk a little Raging Cajun.
Let's do it.
All right, we'll be back momentarily.
Hey folks, AI John here. Are you tired of only listening to sad old podcasts that tell you what they want to talk about? If you answered yes, then check out the You Run Horror Movie Review Podcast, Scott and Mark want you to vote on the movie of choice and ask you for a 3-word review of those movies. They're the only podcast where you're not only encouraged to take part, but actually take over the show in every way. You can find the You Run Podcast and other fine shows at yourunpodcast.com.
All right, so we are back, and as mentioned, we are going to be talking about The Raging Cajun, The Muscles from Brussels. We're going to be talking about Hard Target. For some reason, the only videos that we put up on YouTube that get any kind of love are videos with Jean-Claude Van Damme, so here we are, talking about Jean-Claude Van Damme again. And as usual, we're going to start with third-party review. This one is on Rotten Tomatoes, as usual, and this is from William L., and he says, I feel like I should be getting a paycheck for sitting through some of these explosions and some of this half-baked dialogue. But then John Woo comes through with the explosions, car crashes, fistfights, filmed at multiple angles, gratuitous slow motion, and you can't forget throwing in a few doves. The combination of action and choreography with such mediocrity in almost every other element screams cult classic. I mean, Van Damme literally slaps and punches a rattlesnake before biting its tail off to set up a Home Alone-esque booby trap to kill one of his pursuers. Can't hate that, and it should be mandatory viewing in any introductory film course. 3 out of 5 stars from William.
I don't understand.
Why are you giving me this look?
Well, he says something about pedestrian blah, 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 explosions. And then John Woo comes in with explosions. What? William.
That sounds right.
William, please. Sounds horrible. I hate it.
Well, now that William has pissed you off, what is this movie actually about?
All right, so for that, we go over to IMDb. We type in the words Hard Target, and it brings us to a 1993 movie that got an NC-17 rating. It comes in at 1 hour and 37 minutes. This is a 6.2 out of 10 with 60,000 ratings. And it is currently, I don't know why there's popularity on this movie, but it's currently at 4,509 out of some number, which I thought was 5,000, but it's up 488 spots. I don't think it's 5,000 from some other number. Don't know what it is. Anyways, we go to the storyline and we go to the plot. We're going to read whatever's on top because I wouldn't put it on top if it wasn't supposed to be read first, but we're never quite sure if it's a storyline or the plot. This says at the top, a woman hires a drifter as her guide through New Orleans in search of her missing father. In the process, they discover a deadly game of cat and mouse behind his disappearance. And then if we scroll on down to the storyline, I guess that makes the other one the plot. This one comes care of John Hartnup. You can find him at hartnupj@cs.aston.ac.uk. That's a long address. It says Natasha Bender comes to New Orleans looking for her father who has gone missing. In doing so, she meets a very hard man. He's very hard. His name, he's called Chance. I know he's from the UK because he didn't say he's named Chance. It says he's called Chance. He helps her find out that her father was killed by an organization who sell the opportunity to hunt human prey. They're taking advantage of a police strike in New Orleans. Will the muscles from Brussels win through? Probably because he's very hard.
Does it actually end by saying that? Probably because he's very hard?
No. I took a little bit of a creative license there. But he is very hard. So hard.
It's true. I mean, look at the hair. I'm going to go ahead and just throw some cliff notes out there before we get into the cast, because I think it might be easier.
All right.
This movie is about a woman that leaves Michigan to go find her father, who happens to be a bum, who was also hunted by some dude for sport. She ends up in Louisiana and befriends JCVD, who is also a bum. After hiring said bum to find her father, they quickly learn that he's dead. But despite him being a bum, JCVD decides to do a bunch of police work, even though he's not a cop, continuously is given evidence, even though he's not a cop, and determines that Daddy Bum was actually murdered. This basically sets the movie off where, from this point on, he's going to kick Lance Henriksen's ass, and they basically go back and forth for some time because Lance Henriksen is behind the whole human hunting business.
Yeah, all right. You get a C+. That's good enough. It's a passing grade.
Yeah. You just like to mention how many bums are in the movie.
Yeah, you said bum almost as many times as they say daddy in this movie, which should be a drinking game. Every time they say daddy, you got to take a big ass gulp of something. Not a big gulp, but something else.
While reminding yourself that JCVD is, in fact, a bum.
Yeah, he's a drifter, for sure. He has I think he has an apartment, because he does mention about paying rent.
I thought he was trying to get money to go play with the seamen.
Yeah, well, he is a seaman.
Isn't that why he wanted it? He is a seaman.
Yes, he wanted to go play with seamen. Yes.
Yes.
Full-time job.
So before we start talking about Jean-Claude Van Damme playing with seamen, aside from Jean-Claude Van Damme, who's in this movie?
So, well, we just mentioned the big star. This is Jean-Claude Van Damme, a.k.a. JCVD. He plays Chance Boudreaux, and we've talked about him in the 2 episodes that we've talked about in Double Impact and Bloodsport, but he's been obviously in a ton of other movies like Universal Soldier. I can think of Kickboxer, Street Fighter, his work throughout the 90s. Time Cop. There you go. Time Cop. His work throughout the 90s is very impressive, and he's got an impressive mullet in this movie. We've got Lance Henriksen, who plays Emile Fouchon. We've talked about him in Pumpkinhead and the Dirt Bike and Dickheads. He was in Terminator. I feel like there was like a month where every movie we did had Lance Henriksen.
Probably
in some way, shape, or form. He was Bishop in Aliens. That might be another one. He was in Savage Dawn. He was in TV's Millennium, amongst many, many other movies. We've got Yancy Butler, who plays Nat Binder, which I said Bender and Binder because it seems like they kind of go back and forth between how they pronounce the last name. She was in Witchblade. She was in Kick-Ass and Kick-Ass 2, Witchblade being the TV show. We've got Arnold Vosloo, who was Imhotep from The Mummy and The Mummy Returns. He was Zartan in G.I. Joe Retaliation. We've got Sven Ole Thorsen, who I know I've seen him in several movies, but the one that always comes to mind, he's the big security guard in Mallrats. We've got Ted Raimi in a small part as Man on the Street. And we've got Wilford Brimley from Cocoon and the diabetes commercials.
You say the big security, you mean like the main security guard, the one that they hit with the sock full of quarters?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
You got it.
I didn't recognize him from there, but that's good.
That's him, dude.
So yeah, we got a whole bunch of fucking people. And I don't know about you. I haven't seen this movie since I don't fucking know when. I know I had seen it before. I know it was a rental at some point. I do remember that Arrow being on the cover. Yeah. To be totally upfront, forgot that there was a whole human hunting like aspect to this movie. I thought it was just Jean-Claude Van Damme with a greasy mullet kicking ass. Like I didn't really think much past that.
Well, it's that too.
And in fairness, like I don't feel like they go that hard to hammer home the plot. Like it's really like it does hit a point where this movie is kind of going through the motions, and the motions are wherever Jean-Claude Van Damme's feet or endless supply of bullets lead to.
Yes.
But I was happy to see Lance Henriksen pop up because I haven't watched him in a minute, and he's usually more good than bad.
Yeah, so he's really good in this. Oh, he was in After Dark? What's the vampire movie?
Near Dark.
Yeah, we watched him in Near Dark too. I forgot about that one. So that would be, we should mention, we're kind of bearing the lead here. Mm-hmm. This is a John Woo movie. It was John Woo's first movie, English movie. He'd made obviously several movies in Hong Kong and whatnot, but this is his first like American Hollywood debut. There we go. That's exactly you're exactly right.
So we just went over it with me. Do you have a history with this movie? Is this your first viewing, or do you remember your first viewing?
I saw this again. Every time we talk about JCVD, this is a movie that I saw with my sister in the theater. Because we literally saw every JCVD movie up until I was looking at his kind of movie portfolio or whatever. I think Time Cop was the last one that we saw. I know I didn't see Street Fighter in the theater, but I think I've really only seen it in the theater that one time. And I remember not being very impressed, like coming off of movies like, Universal Soldier was like I really liked that one. Double Impact I really liked. And this one kind of felt like it was disappointing to me. And I like you, I didn't remember much about the human hunting, the most deadliest game variation that we see in this movie. I kind of forgot all about that, to be honest. And watching it this time, I was like, oh, okay, this makes a little bit more sense as to why he's doing all this stuff. And maybe I didn't catch on to it as a kid. I was like 93, I would have been 15, about 15, 16. Maybe I was just an idiot, which is probably highly probable.
Did you remember Henriksen being in this? Because like I said, that totally escaped my mind.
No, not really.
I didn't remember anyone other than JCVD and Brimley being. Those are the only two that I remember being in this.
I knew there was a female lead.
I knew there was a girl.
Yeah, but I didn't remember who it was. Not that Yancy Butler is like so totally memorable. In general, no. To me, she really doesn't have that much of a resume to be like, oh man, she's been in this and that, and oh, when I looked through her IMDb, I was like, I know her from Witchblade, but what else has she been in? And the only other two things that I really recognized were the Kick-Ass movies.
Yeah, see, I don't even think of her from any of that shit. Like, she's, in fairness, there's nothing like objectively wrong with her in this movie, but I don't feel like she really brings a whole lot to this movie either. She's kind of there.
Yeah, she's kind of the damsel in distress. She's kind of the damsel in distress throughout this movie. Like, she's
At
helpful.
best, yeah.
Yeah, but she doesn't really stand out.
So let's get right into stuff that we like. Why don't you kick us off here? What are some things that you enjoyed about the film Hard Target from 1993?
I think it goes without saying that a big like would be JCVD's Mullet. I mean, this is the first time we see him with long hair, I think, in really any role, and probably the only time since. It's amazing. But you know he's a bum because he's so broke he can only afford half a haircut. And my wife provided that one to me. So
okay, that's great. I want to piggyback on that just for my favorite scene in this entire movie. There's all these action sequences that are great and all that. There's a scene where he's got Nat or whatever on the back of this motorcycle and they're running away from some shit.
Yep.
And he keeps turning his head back and forth and his fucking greasy mullet keeps slapping her in the face over and over again. And he does it like 8 times in a row to her. And of all the other things that are going on, him just like machismo dressing her face with his like greasy mullet is by far my favorite little quip of this entire movie. And if I can find it, I will share it at some point during the week.
I have that in my list of things. That's that scene of him on the motorcycle. The thing that I love about that motorcycle scene is you can tell he's on some kind of trailer or something because his hair is barely moving except for when he turns his head. Like it's not flowing in the breeze. It's just like statically laying straight down. And I'm sure it's extensions or some kind of wig or some kind of hair system. I don't think that's his real hair because I just don't think that he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would like have the patience to grow his hair out like that. He's got that like specific look and he's pretty much always had that. But I also like that the movie, it really pulls a serious tone. It has all the markings of those kind of John Woo movies, like his Hong Kong movies. It's got the slow motion. It's got the doves, the never ending stream of bullets, unless it's like something that adds to it's like for dramatic effect that they actually have to reload because it doesn't really have anything to do with anything else. And I would say for JCVD, up until this point, this is probably, well, yeah, I would say this is probably one of his more like, if not his most dramatic role. Like they've always tried to position him as like an actor, obviously, and his limited, his not great English pronunciations don't really help him out. I love the fact that they do this a lot with him, is that they make him he's from the Bayou, so he has a French accent. In Belgium, they speak French. So they use that for him. He doesn't even seem like he's ever grown up. This character has even heard English besides, when he goes into town or something. His English is so like far from being just a French accent to just being a French guy speaking English that it's really laughable. And like I said before, I think that you could make a total drinking game out of whenever he says daddy, take a drink, because Yancy Butler is looking for her daddy. I think he calls him Papa once or twice. And then the rest of the time it's daddy. And it's like, that just seems really weird.
It's even funnier when Brimley starts doing it.
Yeah.
So, because he's playing up the accent like super hard. And I'm probably going to butcher it, but there's a lot of like, your daddy, blah, 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 and he goes and, flings an arrow around or some shit like that. So he does it even more comically, in my opinion.
I think as much as out of place as JCVD seems in this movie, because it's, again, more of a kind of a serious acting tone, I feel like and it's a like for me, is that Wilford Brimley, this seems like probably one of the most out of place roles for him in his career. Not that I've seen his entire filmography or anything, but it just seems like such a weird, I don't think of the Ask Me About My Diabetes guy playing this Cajun, moonshiner that lives out in the sticks of the bayou. So I liked his character. I thought it was really funny. And I think this movie is kind of unintentionally funny. Like they're trying to be very serious, but it is also very humorous at the same time. I mean, like our guest reviewer mentioned, like what other movie can you see someone punch a snake? Like you just don't see people do that, and it's for an effect. He's doing it for a reason, supposedly. I don't I don't know if the science really works out punching a snake to put it to sleep, but it's definitely funny. And there is a scene near the end. Henriksen is great in this movie, but there's a scene near the end where they're playing around with this grenade, and it like he thinks he's disarmed it, and he's like, "Whoops!" And it doesn't go quite as planned. That was like one of my favorite moments in the entire thing.
So one of the things I really liked in this one, right off the bat, and they go back to this throughout the movie because I think it was part of the advertising for it. This like rifle crossbow thing this one hunter dude is using to kill her dad. And again, he uses it again later. Whatever that thing is, because it's not like a straight up crossbow where you have to like pull it back. It's actually got like a firing system,
like a loader or something.
It's fucking cool. Like I don't know why we don't see a weapon like that more often in a movie. Like it just gives one, it's like a different level of gnarly, like because it sticks out and you can see it like really well when he tags a guy with it, and I'm assuming it would be painful as fuck. So I dig that. I think I always like when a movie will introduce like a different kind of weapon, and they kind of do it again with Henriksen because he's the only guy in this movie that's got a single shot gun. And I mean, it's even funny, like because goes through parts of this movie where like there's a scene where he keeps picking up this letter opener and you think that he's going to stab him with it, and he keeps wiping his prints off like as if he's going to cover his tracks, but at the same time he's throwing these empty shells all over the fucking city as he's like going around like New Orleans like shooting whoever, just leaving evidence everywhere. So I like how inconsistent it is, which is kind of entertaining.
I like the way that he treats that gun. There is a specific scene where he has Nat, Yancy Butler, he has her like hostage, and he's ordering her to load the gun. And it's this whole like phallic symbolism that he's doing. And it's like he's getting off on her reloading it for him. I thought that was really a really kind of an ingenious way to treat this thing. I mean, it's this long gun. It's basically like a cross between a pistol and a rifle, but it just takes one shot and he has to manually reload it. And it adds this level of like diabolical feel that you have for this character. Yeah. He just seems like such a shithead. You're like, oh my God, he doesn't seem like a horrible guy. He's killing people and he's a fucking dickhead, and he's treating this woman, having her reload his gun like it's his dick. But at the same time, he's not a total hateable character. He's like a very charismatic villain on screen, as opposed to the other guy, what's his name? Van Cleef. Yeah. Van Cleef seems like he's just a sadist. Whereas, I don't know, Henriksen's character, Fushan, seems a little bit more charismatic and in a weird villainous kind of way.
He does until he doesn't, because it's interesting. Like and this isn't even necessarily bad, but I think he's a great villain, but he definitely hits a point right around the start of the third act where all of a sudden he turns into Batman villain, and he's like, he's on fire, he's screaming, he's doing all kinds of crazy shit at, some point. So I'm not sure I like that they changed him to a Batman villain or a comic book villain at the end of the movie, but for the most part, he's fantastic in it. Now, Pick has some of the most like brutal moments in the movie, and I don't remember, is it Lepaki? Is he the guy who's the big dude that they fuck up? The guy who's finding the bombs?
Getting the vets. Yeah, they're taking homeless vets as the people they're hunting.
Right. So basically, the first time that you really see him, like Pick and Fushan show up, and they're gonna rough him up. Essentially, they cut off a chunk of his ear and they throw him around this office, and they kind of pinball him back and forth between office furniture. And it just kind of looks funny watching them, like these two, like Henriksen and Boslow or whatever. There's probably like maybe 300 pounds between the two of them, maybe. And they're throwing this 400-pound guy around like he's a rag.
I don't think he's 400 pounds, but he's heavy.
He's heavy. I think Pick also has the most brutal like death in the entire movie when he goes and eventually like shotguns that dude. Like it's a pretty, for a movie that had so much cut out of it because it was trying to avoid this NC-17 rating, like they didn't spare on anything with that particular shot, which I'm all for. I thought they did that shot really well.
Yeah.
And I
like that shot.
That scene just like opens up to like all this chaos in a matter of minutes too, which is also really cool. When the movie is chaotic, and doing action movie things, that's when it's at its best, because that's what you went for. You didn't go here. Quite frankly, I think a lot of the plot of this movie is forgettable. And I mean, that we both started this by saying, like, we both saw this and had no memory of the main plot line that's in this movie. So I think a lot of it is kind of just there as a vehicle to get JCVD fighting people, and that's fine.
Well, I think it feels like a vehicle to get JCVD in a John Woo movie, is what it feels like to me, more so than JCVD fighting people.
I know he wasn't John Woo's first choice for this, because one of the things he wanted Kurt Russell, which I could actually see Kurt Russell being in this movie. I don't know if he would be as karate doing as this, but you'd probably have something closer to Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah.
If you were to have him in this movie.
Exactly what I was thinking. Same thing.
But I don't know that would necessarily be bad, but I mean, that's not the point. What I'm not sure if I like or if I can't stand is this movie just fucking oozes John Woo.
Yeah.
Like everything, the camera is, there's times where this is fine. Like, you know, we've talked about John Woo before with Face Off. I think that's the only John Woo movie that we've talked about is Face Off. But his big action sequences are very not enthusiastic. He's got a high bar for what he wants to do when he's making an action sequence, and that pays off, especially in a movie like this. Like the sequences where the motorcycle scene that we were talking about, this huge chase scene with all these insane stunts, even like the intro, like the first 5 minutes where he roughs up some, like, you know, dipshits on the street because they were gonna fuck up, you know, Natasha's face or whatever. That's all great, but like, I would have loved to have the camera not be fucking spinning for more than like 2 seconds. Like the camera is constantly like, it's like they put it on a giant track that just goes around every set and just pushed it and just let it keep spinning the whole time that they were shooting. It never really settles down with that. There's a couple shots for like 2 seconds where they'll have like a close up on a face, but as soon as that close up is done, they're back to spinning shit all over the place. The doves are there in full force. There's like 2 or 3 scenes where they fucking show up, and some pigeons because, you know, he's a bum. So
yeah, I don't think there's too many doves in New Orleans, but I could be wrong.
Right.
I've never been there.
I don't know. And yeah, like I said, it just, all the check boxes that you expect from a John Woo movie, for better or worse, they're here in full force in this. So I don't know if that's a mix or not. And I guess that's a good way to kind of segue into that. Is there anything that you're mixed on before we get into like anything you might not like?
I don't really have any mixed. I think more, and my dislikes are really kind of, we have this occasionally where they're kind of more nitpicks, and my dislikes are more nitpicky, weird kind of plot holes, or just like places where the story falls down or they treat. I guess I'll just get right into it. Like where JCVD, he's a bum, right? He's a drifter. They arrest him at one point because he crossed over some police lines. No more than 20 minutes later in the movie, he's standing next to a dead body that the police are actively investigating, and has the cover over it. And he's like looking at it, and he's examining like he is an officer. Now, I understand part of the story is that there's a police strike, much like RoboCop. You know, there's a police strike going on. Maybe they need all the help they can get. I miss that part. It's just at the very beginning, and it's a very small. When Yancy goes to report her father missing, that's kind of where they cover that. And then, you know, maybe they're just hard up for help and they need him to come and help out. But he seems like he's part of the force. Like, I know we're supposed to be like investigating this murder, but this bum here has a really great mullet, and he seems to be pretty helpful. Yeah. So let's just let him, you know. He's got some great theories on what might have actually happened here. So let's let him go. Right. The other thing is like the Mardi Gras float warehouse. Everyone's on high alert, but yet when JCVD comes down on this swan that's on these chains, like it's a float piece that's getting lowered from the ceiling, nobody notices that he's up there. They're like looking around like, oh, we're on high alert looking for this dude. He just drops from, you know, it's got a motor. It's making all this noise. They don't even look up. They're like, oh, cool. Shoot us. Please shoot us more. And the other thing, like I mentioned earlier, it's a John Woo movie. Like nobody ever runs out of bullets unless it has a place for it to happen in the story to like build dramatic effect. And I just find that to be ridiculous. I mean, it's even got like the trademark, you know, back-to-back scene where they're where JCVD Yeah. And the other guy, Pick, are standing, they're like bantering back and forth about how they're going to kill each other. And their backs are to the wall where the camera shows them on both sides of the wall. They turn around and shoot. And of course, nobody gets hit or hurt. So, I mean, I haven't seen a whole ton of John Woo movies. I'd probably say I've seen maybe 5 max, but his like visual style, all these cliches that he used do for me start to run really thin. Like, I don't feel like I got there in this movie, but I think specifically of something like Hard Boiled, where everybody talks about how Hard Boiled is this great movie, and it is a good movie, but the overuse of these kind of cliche things that he does really just wear out their welcome, because I feel like that movie's like, it's been a while since I've seen it, but it feels like a really long movie. And this, I feel like an hour and 37 is just about the right amount of time that this movie should be.
For me, I think all the John Wooisms did kind of wear on me, because I actually wrote down under a dislike that I'm kind of hating this final showdown because it's just so much John fucking Woo. And it's, you know, like you said, he never runs out of bullets. Like, I think he's got 2 pistols, and I don't know how much a pistol holds. I think it's more like 12, but let's say 16 bullets for the sake of argument.
We're not gun guys.
Okay.
If it's not,
we're not gun
clearly
guys,
obvious.
But he must fire off like 47
At
shots,
least.
like just straight in a row, like no question, like shoots a guy in the dick, shoots another guy in the dick, and just keeps going. And it's also got the like stupid bad guy syndrome in this movie, where basically if you're not Henriksen or Pick, like I'm just back and forth like their actual names versus their character names, but if you're not one of those 2 guys,
well, Pick is his character,
you're just yeah, I know, but Fushan or whatever is
yeah.
Henriksen's character. So if you're not one of the 2 main bad guys, like, you might as well just be a target. Like, not a hard target though, you're an easy target, because all you're doing is you sit there and get shot, and maybe you lift a gun up, but you get shot in the dick while you do it. Or like, no one puts any level of resistance up at all to, and I think he does get shot at one point, but I think it's one of the main 2 guys that shoots him, but
it's
whatever.
a flesh wound.
So yeah, that's all it is. So between the camera constantly panning, the like just over John Wooism at the end of it, and like I said, Henriksen turning into a Batman villain for about 15 minutes, it almost feels, it does, it can beat you down at times to the point where you're like, all right, I've had enough of this. Can we just fucking wrap this shit up? And you're right. If this went on like 10 more minutes, like, good God, like, imagine how this would feel if this was like a 2-hour fucking shit show of a movie. I'm glad that it's cut down to right around an hour and a half. Like, it does get you out of there just in the right time. But that's kind of the biggest like downside with this, is that it just relies so much on John Woo doing John Woo things. And quite frankly, like, JCVD isn't the best performance in this. Henriksen's great in it, and the other guy's okay. Like, he makes for a good bad guy, but I don't know that he adds a whole ton that you couldn't have got 10 other bad guys to play. Like, the story is largely forgettable. What you remember is you remember him punching the snake. You remember him biting the snake's tail off, which I don't know that would work, but I love that that Woo was created enough to, like, I feel like if you bite a snake's rattle off, I don't know if it would die from that. I don't know if it would still be aggressive. I have no idea if that's a functional way to set a trap, but I like that it's in there because it is a really funny scene. But yeah, all the stuff that's in there like that, it just feels like the deck's really favoring Jean-Claude Van Damme, and I don't know that he entirely earns it. Although he does really earn his $100 a day that he's getting paid by her. Like, he goes through a lot of shit for $100.
When she's offered to pay him $100 a day, I was like, man, he's not getting paid very well. That's really pretty shitty. That's a pretty shitty, I don't know, hourly wage or whatever. It's funny you mention all the things.
I have that way low in my notes, like near the end of the, like when I could tell I'm getting to the end of the movie, I was like, man, JCVD is really earning this $100 a day that he's working.
Well, he did negotiate up to like $217 or whatever for 2 days, because that was his union dues to be able to play with the seamen. I looked up while you were talking. Hard Boiled was 2 hours and 8 minutes. So that's why it did. Yeah, that's what it feels long. This movie, I'm reading on IMDb, has a 128-minute work print somewhere. And it got cut down to 116 minutes. So we didn't get a 116-minute movie because I read that the initial idea was that it would focus more on Henriksen's character, and JCVD helped. Like, he was really lobbying to get it be a shorter cut because, in his words, basically, like, you're paying to see JCVD, you're not paying to see the bad guy.
Supposedly, there's a cut of this movie that exists but has never been released, which might be a bad thing, where JCVD re-edited the movie to have more of him and less of Henriksen in it.
Yeah.
Because he, like you said, you're paying to see.
Yeah. The good guy.
So we're probably talking about the same one.
And it's not unheard of that JCVD would step in to do that. Like Cyborg.
Oh God, no.
Is another case where
he tried to do it with Predator.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's full of himself, and that's fine. Like, I mean, if I had a moat like that, I'd probably be full of myself too. Like, look at my mullet. You cannot cut me off to love. That's right. It stays greasy even when I've not showered for 6 weeks. So that's why it's greasy.
Work. Yeah.
I don't know. You got anything else you want to add here before we start wrapping up on this?
No, I really don't. I'm kind of good and ready to wrap it up.
All right. Well, let's fire up the grill.
Then you're in for a big treat, bro, because it's hot dog time.
I want to give this movie a full hot dog just for JCVD's mullet. That alone feels like it should earn its own hot dog. However, the story is kind of weak, but it's also one of those who cares about the story movies because it's really just an excuse to have JCVD kick the crap out of pretty much fucking everything. It showcases a ton of insane stunts and spins the camera all over the fucking place like it needs Ritalin. The movie's probably closer to half a hot dog, but there's something about it just with how ridiculous it is, how ridiculous JCVD is, and how good Henriksen is. I almost lean closer to a hot dog, but the fact that I've watched this, I feel like I've probably watched this at least twice before this and still had absolutely zero memory of what the actual story was in this movie. For that, I have to keep it at half a hot dog because the movie itself is not great, although it is entertaining for all the reasons that you go to watch a shitty action movie that very likely stars JCVD.
Whose hot dog is this, huh? Is it yours?
So I'll start out by saying I disagree. I just think this movie is actually really good. Like, I haven't seen it in 30 years, and I really enjoyed it this time. And I think it comes down to, like, probably when I saw it as a younger kid, I didn't like know. I don't, it's like you get so many more movies under your belt, and you're like, oh, okay, like I can appreciate what he was going for. I think there are definitely shortfalls. Like, I don't think this is a perfect movie at all. You have to accept shortfalls when you watch a John Woo action movie, because like I had mentioned, he uses all those same themes, all those motifs, the doves, the slow motion, never ending ammo, back-to-back scene, all that stuff. They're all here. Everything that you would think of in the John Woo toolbox are in this movie. Sometimes I'm not in the mood for that. It can be a little bit too artsy for a movie like this, but this movie, I feel like the action that's in this movie overpowers all that. This is like an action movie with a capital A. It might have a little bit too much drama. It might have a little bit too much storytelling for some people. They're not looking for that kind of thing in their action movie, but I thought it was a really good blend of both. Like I said, I remember not liking this originally when I saw it in the theater. It kind of turned me off of JCVD, but I also think that was at a point where he had become so kind of oversaturated that I was ready for the next action star person to come in, because he was kind of like one of the later ones, probably one of the last real action stars of the 90s, other than maybe Seagal, like new ones, because we always had Arnie.
I was going to say Seagal was.
Yeah, I think that those two were kind of contemporaries in that kind of respect. Like, I think it's a shame that Woo and Van Damme didn't get together for more movies, because this one's got like enough action. It's got enough laugh out loud, stupid scenes that come up, especially in the last part of the movie that you felt like you were getting kind of over. I feel like that part is really part of the best part of the movie, because that's where all these really laughable and stupid things come up, and those push it up the leaderboard for me as far as like some of my favorite action movies. I wouldn't say this is like my favorite action movie. It's not in the top 3, but it's probably like in the top 20 now after seeing this again, as far as action movies are concerned. Yeah, I liked it a lot. I really enjoyed it. I give it a full hot dog, no doubt, if you're a JCVD fan. And I'm really enjoying that we're going back and watching some of these movies again, because it's been so long for me. This is just a really more refined look at him as not only an action star, but as an actor and just a star in general. I really enjoyed it. I'm really surprised, honestly, that I enjoyed it as much as I did.
I like when you surprise yourself. I'm really surprised I like this piece of shit. I know,
crazy.
So, and I'm actually surprised that I was the one who was a little harder on Hard Target. That's a little surprising as well. So, wasn't I the one that suggested this one?
You did suggest this, and I was like, oh,
I think I did. So.
Let's watch Hard Target. Okay. Punches a snake. Wilfred Brimley on a horse. Cool. Shooting an arrow. Whatever. Which we didn't even mention.
That was pretty great. Well, we got to save something for people to find, right?
Yeah.
So
don't want to spoil the whole thing for you.
Yeah. Where's the fun in that? And that brings us to question of the week, which actually had people answer it this week. I'm not quite sure how to respond to that, but
we'll read them.
Do,
That's how you can respond to it.
Read them poorly, I'm sure. This week we asked you quite simply is you get to unleash some Jean-Claude Van Dammage into any movie. What flick are you throwing him into? So we're going to start over on, what is this? Threads, because there's a whole bunch of responses here. And we're going to start with Dave's Not There 71, who says, one of the Star Wars movies. I would love to see him kick like Vader in the face or something like that. That'd be great. In fact, I can think of a lot of spots in Star Wars that some Van Dammage would go a long way. Our friend Justin over at Pop Culture Reflections podcast says Forrest Gump. After I informed him that someone else answered Forrest Gump, he said, never mind, then I'll go with my real answer, which is Home Alone. So, which the only way I would want to see JCVD in Home Alone is if he's playing the like 9-year-old kid who's beating up the bad guys. Like if he somehow as an adult is playing the child, let's go.
I thought he was only going to be in a scene.
You can put him in as much or as little as you want.
Oh, I thought the question was in a scene.
No, I just asked, you get to unleash Van Dammage into any movie. It doesn't have to be just a scene. So
I misheard the question.
If you mean JCVD, who is this? Can of Waste. It's spelled weird, but I like it. Can of Waste says, if you mean JCVD when he was younger, I would love to see a martial arts version of the Terminator. If he's older, then I would love to see a Blade Runner version.
Have you ever seen JCVD, the actual movie JCVD?
I don't think so.
Okay.
That's like something he did recently. Like,
2006 or something. Not that recent.
Not as recent as I thought. Yeah. I thought it was like the last 5-10 years.
Or have you seen like Jean-Claude Van Johnson, the show that was on Amazon?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Ray Diculous says Patrick Swayze comes back to Roadhouse to find Sam Elliott alive, and drunk Van Damme is dancing with 2 Thai girls over the bodies of the evil henchmen who were sent there to murder Sam Elliott.
That's like oddly specific. Yeah.
I mean, I'm here for most of it. So, and then last on Threads is Ty the Beard says The Princess Diaries. Mess with me and now you MFers. Okay.
I'm sure that was read exactly how it was written, so I appreciate that.
Close enough. So we will go to Facebook next because that's what I pulled up next. And on Facebook, John says Mortal Kombat, since the original pitch for the movie was for a game that revolves around him. Once he declined, they made Johnny Cage. Also, it would be funny to insert him into some super serious movies and have him start randomly split kicking people on the Titanic or some shit like that.
I'm down for that.
Actually, would like to see him.
Yes.
And then Daniel J says Predator. Actually, he was supposed to be in it. I still feel like you can pick out the scenes where Jean-Claude Van Damme was the Predator in it if you watch close enough. But
I want you to make a super cut of that because I don't believe that. But I would love to see the evidence.
I'm not going to do it.
Oh,
so
okay. So then
I'm not going to do it.
I'm going to say you're wrong.
I'm lazy. Okay, that's fair. I'm wrong all the time, as you already know.
Yes.
So over on B-Ski, we have our friend Boomer from Podcast in the Woods, and he says, I'm going with Under Siege. What is better than 3 ridiculous performances from Steven Seagal, Gary Busey, and Tommy Lee Jones? 4 with the addition of JCVD as Jones. As Jones's enforcer. I haven't watched Under Siege in fucking forever. I forgot that Tommy Lee Jones is even in that. Battle of the Egos on the High Seas. You know what? I agree with you, Boomer. I want JCVD and Gary Busey in the same movie. If it hasn't already
sounds like
happened.
the kind of chaos I like.
Right. Then our friend Pearl, who is XX Pearl XX at a bunch of other stuff, says, I don't know what the right answer is, but this pick makes me think of the movie Anaconda. There's picture was of him biting off the snake tail. And what if JCV and John Voight's character were complete douchebags with funny accents, one trying to kill the anaconda, the other being John Voight, and everyone is on cocaine? Cocaine and John Voight. Yeah, why not? Our friends over at Video Tasties simply said Yentl.
I'm there.
So, Sean, do you have any movie that you would like to throw some Jean-Claude Van Dammage into?
I was just going to answer Predator because I would love to see JCVD kick the Predator's ass. I hear we're supposed to be
Mousetrap. I want him in Mousetrap.
Mousetrap, not Screamboat.
Because that movie he could be in that one too. But Mousetrap, someone needed to kick that guy's ass, and it would be fine if it was JCVD.
You know, you're really right. Someone did need to kick that stupid thing's ass a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I remember,
a lot more than he got.
Yeah, is wanting that thing to be kicked a lot.
Yeah. So there we go. So wrapping it up this week, I wanted to say, if you found this entertaining, you can follow us. We give you more content all the time. You can go to our social medias. We're at Dewey Podmonster pretty much everywhere except on Blue Sky, where we're at Crap.town. You can find all of our episodes at our site, which is also Crap.town. You can leave us feedback there. If you would say, hey, I really like this Gary Busey, Jean-Claude Van Damme movie that you haven't talked about, let us know. We'll make an episode of that probably next week, because that sounds like something we need. Of course, you can go to yourunpodcast.com. You can find all of our old episodes and all of our upcoming episodes, as well as all the other great shows on the You Run Podcast Network there. And what am I forgetting, Sean? I'm sure there's a whole bunch of shit because I just rambled it off really quickly.
It seemed all right to me. I was going to add, if you want your answer to the question we answered on this here show, you got to answer it on social networks, on social media. You can find them on all the places John cares about. He's under the name, we're under the name Dewey Podmonster. If it's on Blue Sky, it's at Crap.town. If you want to help support the show, we leave several things that we talk about on the show in the show notes, and there's links to those things. They're mostly free. We try to make them free. Hell, what other show do you know that'll provide hours of free entertainment when possible? Of course, asterisk. We do. So we put those in the show notes. If you click on them, most of the time they're free. If they say Amazon next to them, those are affiliate links. If you buy something through that link, we get a couple pennies, and it helps us run this show. If you want to find me on social media, I'm at internalbleeding.crap.town, and I post stupid clips about stupid movies. You might stupidly like them, so follow me there. Otherwise, watch us at crap.town. John.
That's it. That's all we got. We'll be back next week. Have a great week. Swell up, Butthorns.
Bird season's over, Butthorn. Blah, blah, blah.